You are watching Conscious Evolution with Wes Heffernan.
Wes, we're back.
Yes, sir. We are. It's
Man,
been a little while.
it's been a while, and since the last time we've talked, you've been to California, Ohio, Florida,
New York.
mountains of New York. I mean, you've been
I think
everywhere.
there's probably a couple other stops in there too.
Yeah.
Yes. Summertime. The big thing with summertime is always the the family time mixing with the work time. So getting the wife and the kids to travel with, it's always great. My youngest son Paxton, he's kind of been infatuated with Abraham Lincoln ever since they learned about him last year in a school. So.
Okay.
Which is kind of odd because I relate to my internal dialogue visual picture as Abraham Lincoln, all dressed in black but not scary. So there's this neat kind of tie-in with that, I guess. But we made it to Washington, D.C. It was on the way to a project, but we stopped in D.C. for a couple days, went and saw everything Abraham Lincoln. We saw his hat, we saw his bloody pillow, we saw the theater where he was shot, and we saw the house that he died in, the room that he died in. So all things Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial, of course.
Of course.
All things Abraham Lincoln for him. And let's see, we made it to Niagara Falls,
Okay.
which we were working on a project in New York. So we did get to take the train, that was neat.
That is cool.
Took the train from Poughkeepsie to Niagara, the U.S. side, but that was amazing, especially, two things really. At night, the light show that they do with the falls, absolutely astounding.
Stunning.
Yeah, it was just
Probably.
extraordinary. It's just mesmerizing watching, the falls themselves were awesome, but doing the Maid of the Mist into the fall, into the horseshoe, that was like a spiritual experience. The boat wasn't full, so I was just kind of by myself right on the bow. It's just like you can't see anything, and it's just all this mist and sounds. And you're like, I was on the lower level, so like I'm right there at the water, not about yay high off the water, so you can see. It was just, it was spiritual.
Yeah.
It really was. It was cool.
And who all was with you? Your son, wife?
Let's see, we're both of my boys with me. I think Caleb was in Niagara with us. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
Okay.
So both of my boys, my wife, myself.
Okay.
Again, we spent like 2 nights there. The big summer trip was Boca Raton. We spent about 2 weeks working on the Rainbow Bridge project, which was interesting.
Rainbow Bridge Project.
Yeah, so it is a family mausoleum, private, but there's like 8 or 9 of their dogs that have deceased, and really the whole memorial itself is dedicated to their dogs. They just happen to have a place to put their urns.
Now, do you see that often in your travels?
That's the first. I've seen some
Okay.
pet cemeteries, I've seen some other things, right? But having something specifically, especially that grandiose in nature and unique, it was an extraordinarily unique design as well. But so it was cool for sure. I was glad to be a part of it. It's pretty unique.
So the design, is it just like any other project? You guys look at the blueprints and you say, hey, let's just build it. Doesn't matter if it's for human, this time it's for a dog. This is different for me.
Yes, but that's actually a great lead in to kind of part of what I wanted to talk about moving into, this third chapter is the blueprints and some of the things that, again, going back to with purpose and intent, trying to find the best way to tell this story, to bring it to life. Different things that have occurred over these last 4 months or so between our sit-downs.
Chapters, yeah.
One of the things that really struck me with my internal dialogue was understanding the concepts of the blueprints and how that relates to this story I'm trying to tell as far as perspectives go, right? And so, yes, whatever the project is, we look at the prints, we go build it. But something I realized this summer was, if I don't have the capacity to insert myself into the print, in other words, if there's not an interior view and an exterior view, I had, until I understood the situation, I had a hard time putting the entire project together in my head, right? So if we're doing community mausoleums, for example, there is no interior out view. It's all, looking at it here or here or here. And some of the work that we've gotten into this summer are these large community projects, like the one in New York we were doing, took 2 months.
Putnam Valley?
Putnam Valley, yes. Was 616 crypts. I can't remember how many niches. I think 96 niches. It was it's the biggest one by far that we've ever done. But
is this the one where they wanted 2 urns to fit in?
No, that was in Texas.
Okay, we'll get to
that. Well, that was one of the first big projects, community projects that we've done. We'll kind of get it because that was such a fiasco. I think we finally have everybody happy. One of the battles we as the installers, the setters, the builders, in the field, right? Like we're the ones that have to solve all those little problems that come up that aren't necessarily related to anything we've done.
Right.
But sometimes it is. But a lot of this that's been going on, especially with the Texas project, was manufacturer related. The ones that did these precast concrete cabinets. But yeah, ultimately it boiled down to these people were wanting to put 2 urns of this particular size in a square that just isn't meant for it, but because some fit and some didn't, how do you cover that? Well, if they fit in one, they should fit in all, right? So anyway, but the Texas was the first really big one this summer, community project, and then we did where I began to especially notice this issue I'm speaking about was in Philadelphia, and it was a large community project, but it was in the shape of an eye. And so there's a lot of inside and outside corners, and there's a lot to try to keep up with, which I typically don't have a hard time doing because I've built the entire building inside, outside, all the different perspectives. I've got them in my head where I can create this 3-dimensional structure.
Right.
And I can move forward from that with that in me, right?
It's all your years of knowledge.
But without the capacity, without the perspectives to put myself in the center of this structure and look out as well, it was hard. And I struggled with that a little bit. And, so of course I talked myself through that, and the internal dialogue is the result of that conversation. Which I want to come back to the internal dialogue too, because there's something else over these last 4 months with that has become apparent for me.
Was it the angles? Was it the corners? Was it the edges? Like, what made it different for you?
So the biggest thing is if I can place myself in the building and I want to look at this back corner, I can do so. And while I'm inside looking at it, I also have the imagery from the prints from the outside, so I can find the proper placement of what I'm trying to look at in my head and can see it in a way that it makes sense. Whereas if I only have this outside view looking in and then I move over here to this one, the amount of space that I have to move around to look, and then it flips, right? Especially if you're going this angle in the back to the same angle in the front, everything flips. And so keeping all of those straight, not just for while we're working on this corner, but you have to keep it straight for the entire project because you're building up. And so not having both perspectives made it, I would have to go back to the prints and refamiliarize, but reorient myself each time, which cost a lot of time, right? Over and over again. And so it was with that building that it really began to help me understand the importance of the inner and the outer perspective and how that relates to the story that we're telling in A Journey into the Abyss, but the channel as well. The perspectives is one of the 3 focal points that all of this revolves around.
Right.
So something that I'm definitely going to want to dive in deeper.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time on Conscious Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe.